Hello, my name is Jordan Bongartz. Welcome to Choosing Organic Nitrogen Sources for Your Garden. When I'm planting things in my garden, I usually have a list of items to think about. First and foremost are the types of plants I want to use and what would be worth planting for me. Next, I'm thinking about where I'll plant them and what kind of materials I'll need. The list goes on and on. However, something that hardly ever crosses my mind is the nutrient content of my soil. Specifically, do I have enough nitrogen? Until very recently, I had no idea of the importance of nitrogen levels in my garden soil, how to measure the level of nitrogen, or how to raise nitrogen levels if they're too low. In this video, I'm going to address all of that, how to test for nitrogen in your soil, and different methods of adding organic nitrogen sources to cultivate a healthy garden. So, first of all, why do we care about nitrogen? A brief overview is that nitrogen is an important nutrient in the soil that helps plant and root growth and is a critical part of chlorophyll, which makes the plant green and helps convert light into energy. Nitrogen also promotes yield of leaves, fruit, and seeds within a plant. It has many roles and is a basic requirement for plant health and growth. So, how do you know if you need more nitrogen? If you're noticing yellow plants that don't seem to be growing well, it's possible that your soil has a nitrogen deficiency. The best way to know for sure is to test your soil. What happens is you would take a composite soil sample from your garden and mail it in to a testing facility. The facility will send back a soil test report with the results of your soil's nutrients and recommendations for what you need. Nitrogen is a very common nutrient needed in home gardens. Okay, so you need more nitrogen. Now what? You have a few options for adding nitrogen in yourself. I'm going to talk about 3 ways today specifically: organic fertilizers, compost, and cover crops. So one of the easier options to add nitrogen to your soil is to use an organic fertilizer. Organic fertilizer is comprised of decomposing plant or animal remains that are not processed other than being washed, crushed, or ground. What you want to be looking for on the packaging of organic fertilizers are the concentrations of nutrients. There are 3 numbers that always represent levels of nitrogen, phosphate, and potassium in that order. An example I have here on the slide is that if the fertilizer says 12-0-0, that means that the fertilizer is 12% nitrogen, 0% phosphate, and 0% potassium. You'll want to look for a fertilizer that correlates with your soil test results. Examples of fertilizers with higher nitrogen content are cottonseed meal, blood meal, and fish emulsion. There are many more types of fertilizers out there. Again, you want to be looking specifically at what your garden needs. The one true risk with organic fertilizers are, if they're overapplied, the salt in the fertilizer can burn the plants. So be sure to use only what you need when applying your organic fertilizer. Compost is another option for increasing nitrogen levels, but it acts more long-term. Compost decomposes slowly and is a slow-release source of nitrogen. It won't help any gardens immediately, but is a stable long-term option. Composts vary from kind to kind. Some municipal composts can have trash in them, so caution is needed to ensure the compost, if you are not making it yourself, is truly organic. The third and final option I'm going to talk about today is cover crops. There are certain crops that are commonly planted in periods between cash crops or in spaces between crop rows. These crops can help avoid soil erosion and contribute organic matter after they decompose. But what we want to focus on here is that these cover crops supply additional nitrogen through biological nitrogen fixation. The amount of nitrogen produced depends on the crop type, which are commonly grasses and legumes. The downside to cover crops are the variations in crop to crop and the time requirement. It can be hard to find a cover crop that will produce enough nitrogen for your needs, so additional sources could be necessary. You also have to let the cover crop go through its life cycle, so your planting could be delayed more than if you used something like organic fertilizer. So I've covered 3 methods of adding organic nitrogen sources to your garden, but there are definitely more options out there. What's really important is that you find out how much nitrogen you need and research for that perfect organic source that fits your garden and you. Whether it be fertilizer, compost, cover crops, or something completely different, Just follow your heart. Good luck and happy planting!